I have never heard Peter Gabriel's fifth solo album from start to finish. So today it's not going to change. I will hear full songs from it, but which four? Well, let's find out. Hey, I'm Joe or JSB, and this is the latest episode of a random foreplay where classic rock is curated by chaos. Basically, I throw an album on shuffle and pick four songs along the way to play and discuss, and hope my selections give me a new insight into the album as a whole. It might not. So, Peter Gabriel's So, and it's very hard not to just keep saying so during this, I can tell you. It's 40 years old this month and is still held up as one of the great albums of the 80s, and indeed of all time. So, there I go again. But I've never heard it in full. Now, often on a random foreplay, I choose albums I've known and loved for decades, and then occasionally I do ones that I've never heard a note of. This one sits somewhere in the middle. Uh, it has 9 songs, and I know 4 of them very well. 4 of the others I don't know at all. And one of the others is a very well-known song that maybe I know, but I feel like I don't because I couldn't sing a single note of it for you. You might say that's like every other song ever recorded, but that would be being very rude. Anyway, you know what I mean. And I'll leave you to work out what song I mean. But all will be revealed as we go. Right, let's uncover today's first random selection. Each time I'll have 2 randomly generated songs to choose between. So, will I play it safe and stick with the hits, or be daring and dig a bit deeper? Or will I not get the choice? Pretty much anything can happen, so let's hit play and see what does. Okay, track 1 is going to be a choice between Red Rain, the opener, or Big Time. Okay, so I had to choose a hit, kind of. Big Time was a much bigger hit of the two, but I'm going to go with the other one, which is one of my favorites, probably the favorite song that I already know from this album. So let's start off in familiar fashion with the album opener, Red Rain. Here we go.
Red rain.
All right. What a way to kick things off, both on the album itself and on today's half or so listen. So if you didn't just hear all of Red Rain with me, that's because there are 2 versions of this video. The short version, where most of the music is edited out for copyright and other reasons, and a longer version, which will be in the link of the description on the short version. So you can listen to the songs with me if you need or want to, if you're either new to them or just want to play it out in real time with me. But yeah, what a song, eh? Amazing vocal from Peter Gabriel on this one. Didn't really need to say his whole name, did I? Possibly his best vocal on anything, and it's possibly my favorite of his songs. Maybe, maybe not, but it's close anyway. And even though I've looked it up, I can't really explain what it's about. um, a little bit of wiki research for you. It's a combination of several inspirations, directly referencing a recurring dream he had where he swam in his backyard pool, drinking cold red wine, strange, where another version of the dream had bottles in the shape of people falling from a cliff, and a stream of red liquid would seep out of the people-shaped bottles as they smashed with impact onto the ground, and was usually followed by a torrential downpour of the same red liquid. Well, I've had some pretty crazy dreams as well, but I suspect he was eating a lot of cheese close to bedtime. Poor little Nemo. Hang on. But yeah, great vocal, great instrumentation, especially the rhythm section, which is mainly Jerry Marotta on drums, but with Stewart Copeland of the Police on the hi-hat and Tony Levin on bass, of course. So, gorgeous stuff. All right, we're going to head from there. Anybody's guess. So let's find another 2 tunes and choose between them. See what is on offer. We have got In Your Eyes or Don't Give Up. Okay, so it's going to be another single. The universe is telling us to do that today. Don't Give Up is the second favorite of mine of the songs that I know on this album. But I mentioned earlier a song that I wasn't sure if I knew or not, and that is, as you might have guessed, the other one, In Your Eyes. Which brings me to the reason that I already have a copy of this album without having listened to it, and I've had this for a couple of months, and it just goes in the pile of things I mean to get around to, and I haven't yet. So hence today. But I bought this album specifically for this song because those who saw a little while ago, I did an episode of songs that reached number 26 in the charts because it is 2026. Yes, it is. And I thought I had that song because I have Peter's double hit selection, which is just called Hit, and just assumed it was on there because I know of the song and it's, pretty famous tune. When I went to compile my list of songs that hit 26, I found that it's not, in fact, on there, which leads me to question, do I know it at all? Because I'm not certain I do. Goes without saying that we didn't end up selecting that for that particular episode, so you can go and find out what we did here a bit later. There were some other 80s tunes that did get featured. I'll just say that for you, including one from Peter's former bandmates. Anyhow, yeah, there's another interesting tale behind this one, both in the creation of the song and in its chart success. So let's hear it first and see if I actually know it. Could go either way. Right. Let us find out for sure. In your eyes. All right. That was In Your Eyes. And to answer my own question, as far as I can tell, that was the first time I've ever heard that song. Yes, really. It didn't ring a bell at all, but I liked it. um, yeah, so lots of interesting things about the song. For a start, it changed position on the album, and I was listening out for its prominent bass line, which is supposedly why that happened, because Peter wanted it to close the album. And in the vinyl days, the bass line meant that it couldn't sit there, so he had to move it around. And then on later CD reissues, such as this one, he put it where he wanted it. Was the bass line that prominent? It didn't really jump out at me, but maybe it's this mix or remaster. I don't know. So that's one thing. Another thing is it was a hit twice. Uh, and as a result, it managed to spend 28 weeks in the US singles charts, but never get higher than 26. So, yeah, it was the follow up to Sledgehammer in the States, reached 26 in the charts for 40 weeks. 3 years later, it gets used in the film Say Anything and spends another 14 weeks in the charts. Although that time it just missed the top 40, hit 41 on that return. But that has meant that it actually became the only gold single from this album. Yeah, the number one single, never been certified, but that one has. Possibly because it was re-released after the time that the RIAA, which is always hard to say, changed the certification level for a single from 1 million sales to 500,000. That's the only thing I can assume, because that was why in the 80s, when single sales basically dropped off a cliff, you get a lot of huge hits like Sledgehammer that never got certified gold. Some of them have been certified over time, because these days get 6 streams on Spotify and you've got a gold single. I don't know how that works, but anyway, there you go. Yeah, and it's lyrically to do with things that interest me. It's possibly inspired by his relationship with Rosanna Arquette, which makes it probably the second best song vaguely inspired by Rosanna Arquette. If you know this channel, you know I'm a Toto fanatic and probably can guess my favorite of the two. But there's also inspired by a visit to the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, which the following year would be the subject of a full album from the Alan Parsons Project, or at least the architect, Gaudi, would be. Yeah. Now, I've been to the Sagrada Familia, so this was 1986. I was there in 2011, by which time it still wasn't complete, but, a lot closer. Yeah. Cool song. I am really surprised that it was so unfamiliar to me, but there we go. That leaves only one more single, so we're definitely going to hear at least one deep cut today, possibly two, because we'll see what comes up that I take a fancy to. Some people would say that they never need to hear Sledgehammer again in their lives, and I can understand that. I still, at this point, don't know if I'm going to select it when it comes up or not, because I don't know what it's going to be up against. So let's carry on and see if it's in this batch coming up. Okay, so the next two songs to choose between are going to be Mercy Street and We Do What We're Told, Milgram's 37. Now that is another interesting choice. I think I'm going to go with this one, as in We Do What We're Told, because it seems like an interesting concept for a song. This is one of those rare albums that has a individual wiki page for every single song on the album, and that informs me that this particular song was the oldest on the album. I think it was the first recorded for this album, but it had been around even longer than that. He started performing it in 1980, which is a full 6 years before that, if you're not familiar with your chronology. And it was inspired by the Milgram experiments conducted by Yale University psychologist Stanley Milgram in 1961, where he sought to measure obedience and conformity by determining if a participant would demonstrate a willingness to deliver lethal shocks to an individual at the request of an authority figure. So in the 18th variation of the experiment, 37 of the 40 participants provided a subsidiary act in administering what they assumed were 450 volts of electricity to another individual, who, unbeknownst to the participant, was played by an actor receiving fake electric shocks. Oh, that would have been a job for me. Yes. All right. So Gabriel dedicated this song to those who refused to obey the authority figure's instructions. So that's the other three, I guess. All right, that's an interesting build-up. Let's hear if it's an interesting song to go with it. This is We Do What We're Told, Milgram's 37. Okay, I'm going to be completely honest with you because I always am. On a first listen, that one seemed much more interesting in the build-up than it did actually listening to the track. Um, yeah, I actually see no less luminary than Peter Hamill criticised it for not making people interested enough in the subject matter just by listening to the song, and I can kind of see his point. But uh, I don't know. I'm glad that I gave that one a listen, but it's not going to rival the other two as my favourite from today's selection. Let's put it that way. Um, but maybe it just needs a bit more marination time with me. It'll be interesting to hear it in the full flow of the album when I do eventually listen to this thing from start to finish as God intended. But yeah, I'm going to move on to the final selection today, which anyone who knows this album, and indeed anyone who doesn't, will know that that big single is still sitting in the remaining three tracks. So am I going to go with that, or am I going to go brave and go another deep track? Well, I'm going to treat myself to the first few seconds of each before deciding on this one. And yeah, it really could go any way of the three at this point in time. So place your bets now. Well, that's the intro of This Is the Picture, Excellent Birds, and that's not screaming out to be heard. Next up, we've got Sledgehammer. Or, therefore, the final option is that is That Voice Again. Well, as I say, some people are sick to death of Sledgehammer, and while I'm not, I'm going to stick with, for the most part, other than the first track, as it turns out, hearing stuff new to me because that little intro sounded promising. So let's end up with that voice again. Here we go. Oh, wow. Okay. That was over before I was expecting it to be, which is always a good sign for a first time through. That was that voice again, and that certainly hooked us up for the last song, didn't it? That's a winner for me. Absolutely great. Another good vocal from Peter in the rhythm section on this. Brooklyn. Tony Levin on bass again, and this time Manu Katché on the drums. Fantastic from them. It became about judgmental attitudes being a barrier between people. The voice is the voice of judgment, a haunting internal voice that instead of accepting experience is always analyzing, moralizing, and evaluating it. Yeah, we've all got that in our lives, haven't we? And yeah, I see there's an interesting note here on Wiki that Gabriel expressed varying opinions of the song. In a 1992 interview, he called it one of the songs on So that he was not completely satisfied with, but in the liner notes for the 2012 reissue, he identified it as one of his favorites from the album. Although this is the 2012 reissue of the album, or at least it says 2012 in it, and there's no liner notes of any sort beyond the personnel and stuff. There's no essay or anything. So maybe there was a bigger version, and this is just the single disc cut down cheapy version, very likely. But speaking of personnel and looping back to the song that I didn't play, which was Sledgehammer, I never knew until I owned this actual physical album and read through the all the credits that Billy Joel's sax player Mark Rivera is on the sax on both Sledgehammer and Big Time. Who knew? Maybe you did, but I did not. So there we go. And the thing I do know about Sledgehammer, of course, is, like I say, it was a number one single, only for the 1 week. You would have thought it had a longer run than that, given how ubiquitous it was in the 80s. But yeah, famously, it knocked off a little thing called Invisible Touch from number one, i.e. the solo artist booted his old band off the top of the singles charts in 1986. And yeah, that's just one of those quirky and fun chart facts that I love to share. So there you go. But yeah, this one also got some radio play, number 14 on the mainstream rock charts. We kicked off with Red Rain, which wasn't actually a commercially released single in the States, but made number 3 on that same chart. So there's some singles that did well on the actual top 40, and then there's others that got a lot of radio play, and all of it amounts to this being still a classic. I think the latest 2020 version of the Rolling Stones top 500 albums of all time has it at 297, which is still pretty good going in this day and age. Because I don't know if you know this, but there are a lot of albums that have been released. Yeah. And yeah, this is definitely one of them. And I'm glad to own it. And I will be glad to get to know it properly when I listen to it in full, as is how it was meant to be, in the right order and everything, according to Peter. And yeah, again on that, I found the bass on this song to be much more prominent than on In Your Eyes, and yet this closed side one of the album with no problems at all. So that whole thing about swapping the placing of that track, I'm not entirely sure I buy it, but whatever. Doesn't really matter, does it? No, it doesn't. Doesn't really matter. Anyway, I hope you've been playing along and making those tough choices with me along the way. So do let me know which of the tracks you would have chosen out of each of my options each time, and any other things you want to say about this album, Peter in general, or anything else that's happening in your life if you really want to. Anyway, those are my selections for the day, but yeah, I enjoyed it. 3 out of 4 were surefire winners, and then the other one was interesting to hear, and we'll see if it grows on me over time. Who can say? Now, it seems that lately when I'm listening to new albums, there's a heavy Genesis connection, because either side of my head about now, you can either go back to his ex-bandmate's first effort without him, or Steve Hackett's 1986 album, which came out only a month before this one, as part of the supergroup GTR. Either way, I'll just say thank you for watching today and bye for now, but I hope not for long.
It's the end, but the moment has been prepared for.